Coming up on this episode of The Social Hour, Will Weinrub, who's the CEO of LiveNinja, is going to join Amber and I to talk a little bit about real-time video chats and how it can help us all learn a lot more. That and more next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Social Hour is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 156, recorded Thursday, April 3rd, 2014. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of The Social Hour from Twit headquarters in Petaluma, California. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and I'm still in Southern California. I'm a little sweaty, so if you're watching the video feed, it is warm down here. It's heating up. As soon as April hit, it got toasty. Again, not complaining, but might be a little sweaty for the episode, but that's okay.
You look nice to me. I think you look like you've just been outdoors. It's like you've been playing, I don't know. I was about to say ping pong, but I don't know how much of an outdoor sport that is. Something that's really sunny and sandy.
Yeah, you know, maybe shuffleboard in the community that I'm in. That would be more the speed.
Yeah, right. What's the sport? I want to say backgammon. That's not right. It's where you hit the little and it's like a ooh, and it looks like a little parachute almost, and there's two sides.
You mean badminton?
Badminton, not backgammon. Yeah, badminton. You look like you're some sort of badminton champ right now.
That's cool. That's cool. I'll just go with that then, Sarah. I don't even think I've ever played badminton, but you know, there's a first for everything.
There was a point in just little history of the Lane family. There was a point where my dad was like, we're gonna put up a badminton net, and that's what we're gonna play in the yard. And it was like nobody was good at it, and I think there was some interest for like 12 hours, and then it just sat there for a year.
Yeah, it's like that. I think with a lot of things. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think I probably have played 1 or 2 games of badminton, but that is pretty much it. So no, I have not been doing any type of real physical activity. I'm just warm, and I have these new lights that correspond, which are great, but they do throw off a bit of heat. And since I've closed the windows because it was getting kind of noisy out there, I'm just going to sweat throughout the whole show. But nonetheless, we are going to have an awesome show, and I'm super excited about our guest for this week. We are trying to book more guests, and this one in particular, Will from LiveNinja, is joining us from the hospital where he and his wife just had a baby. So that is commitment. Hi, Will.
Hi there. How you guys doing?
We are great. How are you doing?
I'm tired. I'm very excited. Feel very blessed. We just welcomed our baby boy into the world yesterday, but haven't slept much since then. But excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Does baby boy have a name yet?
Yes, Kevin Robert.
Kevin Robert. Wow, yeah. That's a good one. I love it.
Yep.
So, Will, you are the CEO of a company called LiveNinja, and for anyone who's not familiar with what LiveNinja does, tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So, LiveNinja is a video chat marketplace where you can buy and sell video chat sessions on different topics. So you can talk with like doctors, lawyers, therapists, excuse me, fitness instructors, fashion advisors, tutors, and on the flip side, you can sell whatever knowledge, advice, talent, or passion that you have to people using video chat and real-time technology. So even if that's technical, like you're a doctor, a lawyer, a therapist, like I mentioned, or maybe you just happen to know something like fantasy football advice or can teach another language, you basically tell us what you're good at, the rate you'd like to charge, and when you're available, and then we help you get clients all over the world via video chat.
So this isn't just like, okay, I want to watch some sort of a video tutorial. This is an interactive, we are live with each other, almost like a tutoring session.
Right, exactly. It's all live. I mean, you look at like sometimes like, if you were to get a guitar, lesson on YouTube, you would basically have to pause it, rewind it, pause it, rewind it, and you don't get that back and forth feedback that's really important when you're learning something. In this case, the instructor looks back at you and says, okay, you're holding, your second finger is on the wrong string and just move it in this position. Also therapy, things like that. These are things that you have to have a live component to really engage with somebody. So live is important in a lot of different areas, and it's kind of like just giving everybody access to different people around the world that could best help them with whatever they need.
Now, this is somewhat like Google Helpouts, although I did read a blog post where I think you talked a little bit about how it was very different in many different ways. So can you talk a little bit about how it is different than Helpouts and what you guys do that sets it apart?
I wouldn't say we're like Google Helpouts. I would say Google Helpouts is like us, because we came a little bit before they launched Helpouts. We knew about Helpouts for a long time, and we were excited to see it happen because it was validation in the space, and also a lot of education to prospective users that this stuff is actually possible. That you could video chat with people that are halfway across the world and exchange services, buy and sell services using real-time technology. A few things that differentiate us between Google Helpouts. We're not baked into a social network like Google Plus, for example. You have to log into Google Plus to use Google Helpouts. We're kind of platform agnostic. You don't have to use Google Wallet, things like that. There are certain components to it that make it a lot, different. Also, you can embed it in any place that you want. 2 lines of code, you can embed your LiveNinja profile on any website. And we've just been in the space a little bit longer, so we know a lot of the mistakes that Google's making. They're kind of making for the first time as they embark in this space, and we've been trying to serve these people for over basically 2 years now, and we're a little bit of a different mission than Google. I mean, I think what Google's trying to do is really cool with Helpouts, but when LiveNinja started, we started LiveNinja to help solve the problem of unemployment. The reason we started the company was because unemployment's a huge socioeconomic problem around the world. We're hovering around 7-8% here in the States. It's like 27% unemployed in Spain. But the problem is that, the word employed is very different today than it was just 5 years ago. I mean, we're not a generation of 9-to-5ers anymore. We're a generation of freelancers, consultants, entrepreneurs, businesses of one. We know how to tap into this online, digital, sharing, collaborative economy that now exists for the first time ever. So we really started this company with the emphasis and with the core mission of helping people create sustainable self-employment based on whatever they're good at, regardless of where they're located in the world. So that's always been the focus for us. And, we keep electing these government officials that say they're going to fix unemployment. It's always been a hot topic in every presidential debate. But we elect these government officials. These are, older people that are kind of out of touch with how our generation and the generations coming after us work. And what does the word work mean today? It means something very, very different than it did just, like I said, 5 years ago. So we're focused on what does work look like today and what does work look like in the future? And we think, a lot of people are going to be working for themselves because you just have access to so many potential clients, and you have tools like how we're engaging right now. I mean, this is incredible. I mean, video chat, we take it for granted, but I mean, this is the closest thing that we can get to a real life interaction without physically being next to each other. And when you have enough webcams and enough access to broadband, high-speed internet connections, you have something that's really, really powerful. Everybody's got a window into their life and into their skills and talents, and you don't have to be located in a specific region to, have a worldwide reach. So, we kind of take those parameters, and we hope that what we're doing helps people make money and create jobs for themselves based on what they already know and what they already love doing.
Will, do you find that having done this for a couple of years now, and obviously not only being able to connect people who can be connected virtually, but maybe would never be in the same room because you're kind of creating a global marketplace. Do you find that certain types of instruction, certain types of interactivity works better over this kind of with these tools? A guitar lesson, for example, is that better than a foreign language lesson?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we have to be mindful of, and one of the mistakes we made when we first launched the company, was we were kind of shoehorning everything into a video chat platform and saying, hey, teach whatever it is through video chat. It works great. I think that there are certain use cases that video chat works excellent for. Like, for example, therapy. Really important for people that are in therapy or talking with a counselor to have that face-to-face interaction, right? Because, you can read facial expressions, you can kind of have empathy with the person and connect with them. You really need that when you're in therapy and when you're getting counseling. Music lessons, you kind of have to see how they're holding the instrument. Cooking classes, for example, you got to see exactly what they're doing and be able to instruct them. In certain cases, sometimes you don't need video. In other cases, audio only works fine, like when you get legal advice or when you get business advice. So there are some use cases where video chat is essential, because you need, for example, for guitar lessons and maybe coding classes when you need screen sharing and things like that to show what you're doing. In other cases, audio works great and you don't really need to be on video. So we do offer video capability, but we also offer audio-only sessions as well. And it's really based on what the need is for that particular vertical and that particular use case.
I was also just reading about a new service that you are building. You're offering that I believe was just announced this week at a conference in Miami. So not only are you a dad this week, but also another business that I think raised about $500,000. Can you talk about this business? Because I think it's a bit different. It's also going to help change the way people shop and make that experience more social and interactive.
Sure. It's actually, it's just a new product that LiveNinja launched. We call it Katana. You can check it out, katana.co. And yeah, we did raise another $500,000 round that's helping to fuel the launch of Katana and get some distribution and marketing around it. And basically, Katana emerged just kind of naturally. People saw LiveNinja. It was baked into this marketplace that we had and all this great technology that we built for these people. And they said, hey, I want that technology on my website. And as we were researching the space, it just became clear to us, e-commerce, when we think about what the future of e-commerce looks like, we really think it's going to look a lot like real-life commerce. Going into a store, you're greeted by somebody in real life, and they can help point you to the right product or service that is best for what you're looking for. Now, e-commerce, it's very asynchronous. You're kind of like left to browse through different products or services, and in some cases it works fine. Like Amazon, obviously, it's great. I mean, when we want to look for a book, we kind of know what books we're looking for. We look for the genre, and we buy a $15, $20 book. Doesn't work in all businesses. I mean, you look at like insurance, for example, banking, financial services. These are really, really daunting, types of transactions that they're having a lot of trouble with, just having a static e-commerce site. I mean, you can imagine going to a major insurance carrier's website, trying to get a quote. You're going to be greeted by a 40-question form. Very few number of people are going to finish that form, so their conversion rates are terrible. And then once they do get the quote, you're greeted with like things like replacement costs or like term life insurance versus whole life insurance and deductibles and co-pays. And then they see that and they're like, yeah, forget it. I don't even know what any of this means. I'll just call an agent or go to an in-person branch when I have a chance. So we're kind of taking, the added value of real human to human interaction in the cases where it's necessary to drive sales on a digital level. In a lot of cases, you just need a human being there. I mean, think about it. There's a reason that every time we call a 1-800 number, we just keep hitting 0 a bunch of times over to talk to an operator. Or like we keep just saying operator. Sometimes we just want to talk to a human. We want technology to get out of the way and connect us to another human being, especially with complicated topics like, financial services, insurance, and things like that. Also like, high level, fashion commerce, for example, or jewelry. A lot of people aren't making $2,000, $3,000 purchases to get, like a fashion, like a bag or something like that costs that kind of money, or like a diamond necklace. This stuff's not really working for e-commerce as well as it does for, in-person real life commerce. And because we're missing that human element that shows us exactly that we're making the right choice. When we make a $2,000 purchase, that person knows exactly, what they're talking about. I'll give you guys a story. Like when we had our first child, I went to Tiffany's and I bought my wife a diamond necklace. It was a sizable amount of money, but I wanted to give it to her as a thank you for our daughter. I researched everything on Tiffany's.com, and it was a $2,000 necklace. And there was a huge button that said buy now right there. I could have bought it and it would have been shipped right to my door. But for some reason, I didn't do it. And I said, you know what? This is the necklace, I think. Let me go into the store and actually buy it. And it was only after, actually having the experience in store that I realized why that was, is because I was kind of nervous making a $2,000 purchase online. Not only that, but I'm a guy. I don't really know women's taste in jewelry. So you go into the store, and I mean, these Tiffany's, representatives, they're trained. They know exactly what to say to close a deal. So like, I say, hey, my wife has minimal taste in jewelry. Do you think she'll like this? And then they'll say things like, oh my God, yeah, your wife is gonna go crazy for this. I mean, if my husband gave me something like this, I would absolutely love it. And they know exactly what they're gonna say to close that deal right there. And I mean, that's why in-person sales are so effective. And yeah, they closed me. I bought the necklace right there because, I was thinking, like, yeah, I would obviously like to make my wife happy, and she's having a positive reaction to it. In-person sales just are so effective when you get that human-to-human connection, but we haven't been able to do that on a digital level till now. Why? Because just video chat was not ubiquitous. You didn't have a lot of webcams, baked into devices like smartphones and laptops. It was only after 2009 into 2010 that you just started seeing them, shipped, and after the iPhone 4, seeing them shipped into smartphones as well. So it's kind of like a new arena, and we have invisible LTE networks that's like 25 megabytes down, that, you know, you can have these really, really clear video chat connections that are very, very similar to a real life sales experience. And we're taking Katana, which is basically our B2B product, and giving that sales experience to any company that wants to replicate that online. So, you know, whoever wants it can have video chat. You can be greeted right by a representative. A customer can come to your site. They can click a button and go to the next available agent via video chat. It could also be audio only. It can do text chat. Can do screen sharing. So you can share different items, show, you know, somebody the right, you know, product based on what they're looking for. And we really feel like that's the future. I think in the future, you're not going to go to a website and just scroll endlessly through lots of products. You're going to go to whatever company you want to purchase that product or service from and simply say, hey, I'm Will, and this is what I'm looking for.
So, Will, I have to, since you're actually in the hospital with a new baby, and I know you have another young child, so this is totally appropriate, I hope, question. Let's look 20 years from now. Right now, yep. LiveNinja is doing something that, as you say, it's a pretty new experience. You can connect, you can be in real time on a pretty decent connection, see somebody in HD. What do you think the future of secondary education college is going to look like? Are colleges going to cease to exist? Is this sort of just the beginning of the way that we're all going to learn from each other in the future?
I think so. I really do. And I wouldn't say colleges and institutional like universities will cease to exist. I think that's very important. But I mean, most of the things that I've learned in my life, I've learned from just interacting with other people every single day. And I think that's where the most valuable knowledge that you get, that you can use in your daily life, comes from. As great as, of course, institutional education is, and it does play a huge role, I think you're going to see more and more people have an open mind that you can learn anything from anybody nowadays. And because the world is a lot smaller, and I mean, let's face it, the internet makes the world a lot smaller and allows us to have access to so many people across the globe, that the best education is just going to come from the other person, even if they're halfway across the world, that could teach you that. You know, you can, you know, learn Mandarin from somebody in China, you know, and you don't have to go to a university, you know, that is kind of like, you know, shoehorning that into their curriculum. Go right to the source and learn it. If you want to learn programming from somebody right in Silicon Valley and you're in South Africa, there should be no reason why you should be able to do that. You should have access to all of these people and all these brilliant minds. And I think as we move forward and as we evolve into this freelance economy, which we're clearly going into, you're going to see more and more of these like independent nodes spread out all across the world that are just relaying and sharing information with each other, and also sharing, you know, monetary transactions at the same time. So I think, you know, that's the future of education to us at LiveNinja. I mean, we just want to empower people to have access to people that they've never before had access to, and then also give people that have knowledge an opportunity to share that with the entire world.
Well, I just want to thank you, but we should also thank your wife, I think, because she did let you do the show. And
did,
I know it's, like I said, it's been a big week for you. So congratulations on the baby, and congratulations on raising more money for your business. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about LiveNinja in the future. So thanks so much for joining us. And I have to say, you don't seem tired at all. You seem very alert for someone who has been up.
That's the magic of caffeine. So I had to chug a few Red Bulls before here, but I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was a great chat. Thanks so much for all that insight. Of course, Will Weinrub is the CEO of LiveNinja and not always hanging out in hospitals. But again, congratulations. Kevin Roberts, welcome to the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Amber. Well, that was, I don't think we've ever had anybody who's been in, you know, close to a delivery room before. That is a first for the social hour.
Yeah, I think he kind of takes a kick. I remember I did an episode with Leo a long time ago where I was in a car, I believe, at an airport. So I've been in some strange places, but I think he kind of tops it, saying, actually doing the show from a hospital with a newborn. So exciting to have him on the show. I wasn't sure because I was sending him messages on Twitter and I wasn't sure exactly when the baby was going to be born, but I'm glad that he had a chance to make it and join us on the show.
Me too. Me too. Will Weinrub, good work. That is dedication to your craft and your family. Quick reminder that Amber and I actually have we have a new live time on Thursdays. Beginning in January at the start of the year, we had moved to Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We are now noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And the reason for that is we're kind of sandwiched between two other shows here at Twit. It just sort of made everything easier for everybody. So if you're watching us live, welcome. Thank you for being here. And if you are listening to us or watching us after the fact, now you know when to tune in next week. Of course, All of our episodes are always archived and live forever at twit.tv/TSH. We got a lot of great feedback on our Mark Cuban interview, Amber, from last week. And it's funny, we're still getting tweets from people saying, oh man, I have all these great questions. I wish I would have watched live. And so that's kind of the incentive to join us live, because we can take your questions from Twitter or in our IRC chat room or even via email during the show. But you can always watch on demand at your leisure. We want to make it easy for you. Of course, our email address is thesocialhour@twit.tv as well. All right, so Amber, this is kind of an interesting little Google Plus twist on the social network. Google Plus has gotten a bad rap for being a ghost town. I'm not exactly calling it a ghost town, but that is something that I hear. And of course, the Google Plus team, there are a variety of examples that show that many people have really great, thriving communities. In fact, one of our shows, Know How, which just shot live before this show, has a great Google Plus community because they like to take questions of how-tos that people would like to see and ideas. So it's not as if Google Plus is a ghost town at all. However, until now, there weren't a lot of numbers associated with your view count based on how many people have you in circles, as in followers. That is now public. So if I go to my Google Plus page, I'm Sarah Lane. Here, I haven't posted anything in quite a while, so I don't expect to have too much engagement. But I've got 270 odd followers, 270,000 rather. Okay, well that seems like kind of a lot. Of those followers, I've had about 957,000 views. Now that's somewhat approximate, and Google Plus will say that here when you hover over the number, but I've seen, depending on someone's profile, Amber, some really weird numbers, like 300,000 people are following somebody and they've had 190,000 views, which means fewer people than, so what's happening is people are putting other people in circles and then never going into their profile and never engaging with any of their content. And again, like we were talking about fake followers on Twitter last week, it's good to know, especially to put those numbers into context, because if you're not supposed to take a number seriously, you should know that before you start to use it as some sort of a gauge for how well you're doing.
Yeah, I think this is a little strange. I mean, to compile all of your views into one number, that it just feels meaningless to me, Sarah. I'm just looking at the number of views that I have, and I'm relatively active on Google Plus at least a few times a week. But I can't really decipher any meaning from what this number means and what it would mean to me and how I would use it. It just feels a little egocentric in some ways. And I did read an interesting blog post online earlier today that talked about how this number is somewhat inflated, and really it's just meant to make people feel better about the content they've put out on Google Plus. And at the same time saying that, I did see a report this week that came out that said that engagement on Google Plus is increasing and more people are engaging with content there than ever before. But still, I don't think this is a number that I'll necessarily use. Can you see how this would help anyone?
Liz Romero, who works with us, says she has 7,200 followers and 1.5 million views, and it's like, that sounds great, but it's like, well, what sounds good? Yeah, like, what does it mean? Was there some crazy post that went viral? Where is the context there? And I think that's the problem that I have too, Amber. It's what does it mean? Should I take this seriously? I'm not very engaged on Google Plus. I haven't been for a while. It's one of those things that's just the reality of it, and I'm not going to say otherwise. So why do I have so many views? Well, I don't really know. I don't know if I should. I also have a lot of people following me on Facebook, and when I post something about a new episode of The Social Hour or something else that I'm doing on Twitter, whatever, I sort of have engagement there, but I mean, I'm not even getting like 1,000 likes on anything, even though supposedly many, many, many thousands of people are following me. It's kind of just a joke, and I'm getting to the point now where I feel like numbers should just be stripped out of social networks, because it's a waste of time to try to make sense of some of these.
Yeah, I mean, especially this number. It just, I just can't see how it would be valuable. I mean, I would be interested if I could see some really intelligent analytics from how much my content is being spread on Google Plus, who's sharing it, the type of people. I mean, we know that Google has that information, right? And yet all they're sharing is this one mass number that kind of throws everything into one bucket. So to me, that just doesn't feel all that interesting. So I wish that they had something that was more in depth, and we had just, again, better analytics ethics around the content we're putting out there. So I don't think this is a big win for them this week as far as news coming out from that platform.
Yeah, better luck next time, Google+.
Nice try, buddy.
I'm sure there are people out there who are saying, like, this is very, very interesting to me. What is wrong with you women? And that's, a conversation for another time. Hey, Amber, this is a pretty interesting story. I am an OkCupid user. OkCupid is a dating service, one of many. It's actually owned by the same folks who own Match.com, although it started out independent, I think. I think I've got that right. But this is a story that you threw in our lineup, that OkCupid, the service, had, if you were accessing the service through your Firefox browser, you would see a notice saying, it would be really nice if you decided to use another browser, because the CEO of Mozilla, which of course is the parent company of Firefox and other products, has an anti-gay rights stance that we, OkCupid, as a dating site, which obviously is not just for heterosexual people, we don't agree with. Well, as of just at least a few minutes ago, we've got a story on Recode that in fact he has resigned as CEO.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I didn't even see that. I was just reading the letter that he had posted on the Mozilla website, because he did respond. I mean, this is all based on a donation that he made, a $1,000 donation in 2008. That was, again, it wasn't supporting equality among people who are gay. And he did post a letter that went into detail about how, he was going to ensure that everything was focusing on equality at Mozilla. And I did not see that he had resigned, but not a huge surprise, especially in the internet age, that someone like this isn't going to necessarily last that long. Yes,
we've got a quote from Mozilla in a blog post that says that Brendan Eich was the CEO that has stood down and, quote, Mozilla prides itself on being held to a different standard. And this past week, we didn't live up to it. We know why people are hurt and angry, and they are right. It's because we haven't stayed true to ourselves. We didn't act like you'd expect Mozilla to act. We didn't move fast enough to engage with people once the controversy started. We're sorry. We must do better. Wow. Interesting. But yes, Amber, I gotta say, I think this was a matter of time, because it was not just something that clearly is a very important issue to a lot of people, whether they are gay or not, but the fact that it was being spread, the awareness was being spread by services that are well known and well liked. And when that OkCupid notice hit just a couple of days ago, I mean, it was one of the most retweeted things I've seen on Twitter in a long time, because people were like, wow, this is amazing. So there you go.
Yeah, and when I read his letter, I mean, I wasn't overwhelmed by the letter. I didn't think, oh my gosh, this person made a mistake and then they've changed their opinion. Really, if you read the letter that was posted on the Mozilla site, the CEO, the way he's speaking in a very professional way, in the sense that he's speaking on behalf of Mozilla, but he doesn't talk specifically about what happened in 2008. He doesn't admit to it. He doesn't talk about really his personal feelings as much as maybe you would want him to. And so it felt like a very cold response. So I think, like you said, the writing's kind of on the wall that something more severe was going to happen, because that apology just is not going to cut it. So I think in many ways that's good news for Mozilla, because this is probably just OkCupid is just one organization that was boycotting them, and there could be many more lining up to do the same.
Yes, absolutely. Well, so that is a little bit of late breaking news here on The Social Hour. We were going to talk about it anyway, but the story just changes right before our eyes, which is always fun. All right, so on to something completely different. How do I even set this up, Amber? Norway, polar bears, and high-speed internet?
This is just an interesting story. We talk so much about what's happening in different parts of the world as far as the technology that they're using there and how people remain social and how they remain connected. This is a great story on the Wall Street Journal. It's about an individual who lives in a cabin in Norway in a very remote area. They have no running water. In fact, there are more polar bears than humans in this particular little village. And yet this individual is such a diehard techie that he worked with his town when he found out they were installing fiber a few miles down the road. He worked with his town, and they protested, and they said they also wanted to get fiber. They wanted to be able to lay cable and get better internet in their community, despite the fact that they don't have a lot of other utilities in many ways. And they got together and actually helped to dig trenches and lay down the cable so that they were able to access the internet. And they have better internet and faster internet than some cities that are obviously much further south in Norway. So a neat story about one man's journey to be able to stay connected despite the fact that he lives so remotely.
That's amazing. It actually looks like a pretty cool cabin. A little cold.
It looks
cold.
very
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
The whole no running water thing could be sort of problematic when you need a nice hot shower. However, fast internet is probably the top of my priority list as well, if I'm being honest. So I get it. I definitely get it.
When you read into the story, he has such amazing technology in his home. He has a giant screen, like a 10-foot screen where he can watch movies. So he's obviously downloading a lot of content. The home runs on a generator. And more and more as you dig into this guy, you realize he's a pretty neat guy. And for decades has been a huge tech enthusiast and just demanded that they have a right to the same internet that the village down the road was getting, despite the fact, like I said, that they live in an area where there are more polar bears than humans. So kind of an interesting story.
I wonder if some of the polar bears that may frequent his, yard area sometimes just kind of like watch through the window. You're like, oh, cool. That's the new Disney movie. Because he's just sitting in there just watching movies with his high-speed internet, download. Only took a minute. I would love that.
I know. You know what?
I want to believe that's what they're doing.
I want to reach out to him and get him on because I think we need to have someone who is that that close in many ways to the North Pole and that connected. It would be fun to have him on. So maybe I'll chase him. That would be the ultimate guest, I think, in many ways.
I bet he'd have a great Skype connection. He knows what he's doing. Thinking. That's more of those. All right. Well, so here's an interesting. There's actually some more Twitter news, but here's an interesting new feature that Twitter has implemented. You can now search Twitter by date range. That is helpful. Finally, Twitter keeps basically building tools that we've had to use third-party services before. This is something that you can do. You can search a date range within Twitter. Of course, the name is escaping me of the third-party service that I've been using. I don't know, it'll come to me. But this can be really helpful. You can now search by user, you can search by first tweet, you can search by date range. So if I thought that somebody said something, I don't know, a couple of years ago and it was in the summer, and you sort of have that range. It's almost like looking at some old financial statement from your bank where you're like, I think I bought that plane ticket kind of in that range. It's great for searching tweets, not just for posterity, but for information.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, the more time we all spend on Twitter, and I know Twitter is my main source for news, and there are tweets that I remember and I've tried to go back and find, and I can never, ever find them. So I love that they've added this. As it says in the TechCrunch article, you have been able to do more advanced search on Twitter in the past, but it has been complicated. So they've really made it user-friendly to go into the advanced search section and to really nail down the type of search that you want to do as far as date range and specifics in terms of the words that someone might have used. So very helpful for anyone who wants to be able to search Twitter, because over the years, like you said, it just hasn't been great.
Also, this is about 15-minute old news. Twitter-owned Vine, which of course is that 6-second looping social network that I've abandoned Vine, but it has kind of gone the route of Instagram and introduced direct video messaging. So I could send a Vine to you, Amber, that would not be posted on my public feed. So it almost seems a little bit like a play for Snapchat, which is, again, not a public feed of any kind. You decide who you're going to send it to. Snapchat's a little different because you could send a short video to more than one person at a time. Mm-hmm. This sounds like, at least right now, it's a one-to-one communication on Vine, but kind of interesting. I also don't use Instagram's direct messaging, which is a photo or a video, ever. But I have talked to people who say, I use it a lot, especially if you're wanting to maybe reach out to another photographer that you'd like to kind of like take it to DM sort of thing rather than keep commenting on, some sort of a public post of theirs. So yeah, there you go. Vine introducing new features.
Yeah, so you can do a direct video message. Is that what you said, Sarah, specifically? So it's not text, right? Just a direct video message to someone.
Yes, exactly.
Is it 6 seconds as well?
I don't know because I haven't even tried it.
I'm guessing it is.
The
only reason I'm asking is, I don't know, maybe I'm long-winded, but I'm not sure that I can do a 6-second message to anyone, right? Maybe that's a problem with Vine for me anyway. It's such a short amount of time. But just thinking of sending quick little messages, I mean, you couldn't say very much.
Yeah, sorry, I'm
Playing around with it.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if it's already updated. Let's see. All right. Okay, Vine, what's new? Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and update it, and then I'll send you something, and we'll come back to it in a second once it's updated. But yeah, it's I think the whole being able to message people, Cyberdust, for example, Mark Cuban's new app where he's like, I think that people should be able to chat securely and privately between each other. That was the whole point of him putting together Cyberdust. And there are a lot of comparisons to something like a Snapchat where messages only last for a little while and then they go away forever. This is not exactly what Vine's doing, but there is something interesting about every service saying, well, here's what we do, but if you want to kind of take it to the back channel, we will provide that for you so you don't feel compelled to leave our network and go somewhere else for that.
Yeah, I just find it funny, we were thinking about having Mark Cuban on last week and talking about Cyberdust and the race for anonymity. So many people want to have anonymous interactions online, and yet at the same time, so many people want to have their face attached to messages in video chats and texting in video format too. So it's funny to see kind of those two paths that people choose to take, one being that they want to have very private experiences and one being that they're okay. I mean, I can't imagine if I put some of my text message chats into video form, it feels to me like just way too personal, and I'm not sure I would want all those videos out there, but you know what, this is why this is the perfect show for people to let us know if they would ever use something like this, because I just can't see it. Instagram direct messages I can see, but not sure about the video messages.
All right, so we've got introducing Vine messages here. Okay, so I'm looking at it for the first time. Check it out. All right, tap here to start creating a message. Use the microphone, that's just fine. All right, so if I was to say, let's turn this around. Hey Amber, I'm just checking this out. Is this 6 seconds? Looks like it is. I don't think it goes any longer than that. Yep, that's it. You just get the 6 seconds. Yep. So, it causes us to be concise and not beat around the bush.
We just had someone tweet in who said that it's also text messages too. So and you can group messages, I guess. So in that case, it obviously is a little more enhanced than something you would get on Instagram, because they do have the texts and you do have the video capability and the grouping capability. So it's getting a little more interesting as we talk about it.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yes. All right. Let's move on to selfies. This is the social marketing spotlight of the week. Amber, what is Samsung doing that is so selfie friendly?
We all saw what happened with Ellen DeGeneres recently at the Oscars when she took that selfie. And it turns out that Samsung is now behind yet another famous selfie. This is a selfie of a Red Sox player with President Obama, just a recent photo that is making the rounds online. And this particular player, he signed a deal just a few days ago with Samsung. So he is carrying around one of Samsung's phones, the Galaxy Note 3, on a recent White House visit. And he took this picture. And so Samsung once again has gotten into the press with the selfie hashtag in many ways. So I thought it was an interesting conversation, Sarah, because when does it become too much? It's one of those things where I feel like it just feels forced in some ways. If Samsung is giving out and doing these plays where they're giving out phones and they want people to get the phones and pictures, and a couple times it's okay, but as time goes on, I think people will get a little sick of it.
I think so too. I think the whole selfie thing it's kind of starting to turn into this, like, I don't know, I mean, my mom calls it selfies, and she takes selfies with her friends, and that's super cute, Mom. And I'm just realizing now that you're gonna now think that you're not supposed to do that, but it's one of those things that's so sort of part of the vernacular, and everyone's like, selfies. This is not new. It's just taking a photo of yourself or your photo of your. The whole thing just seems silly to me, especially because there's so much emphasis put on, like, oh, people are now so vain, or it's all about, personal branding. And a lot of this is just like, what? We've always done this. I mean, when I was in 5th grade, I took lots of pictures of myself like this. They were always blurry, of course, because the lenses were bad. But I kind of feel like I've got selfie fatigue, even though the concept is not a problem. It just has a stupid name. So now I feel like it's, this trend that's getting played out.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's also an issue with some of these bigger technology brands who are giving devices to celebrities. I mean, it's okay if those individuals, they love those devices and they use them all the time. But then, of course, there's that risk. And we saw this happen recently with BlackBerry, where Alicia Keys was very involved in the company. They hired her to be the head of creative in some capacity. And then, of course, that famous tweet went out where she was sending a tweet from her iPhone and not even using the BlackBerry at all. So it's one of those things where I think they have to be careful who they choose to do this with, right? And in many ways, it can backfire in the long run. So it feels forced. I mean, it's great that Samsung had that recognition from the Oscars and then obviously from the White House now, but it would be okay for them to kind of sit back a little bit and not make such a big deal about their devices showing up in famous selfies. So we could get sick of it.
Famous selfies, yeah. I just, I don't know. Samsung, maybe they're onto something here, but I'm sort of with you, Amber. I'm kind of like, tread lightly, or it'll kind of be, sort of becomes you don't want to be the butt of a joke, right? You want to be in on the joke.
You don't want to be the next meme, right?
Right.
It's never going to work out well. Now, we promise every week that we will have our gig of the week, and this is where we talk about social media job opportunities. So if you guys find any opportunities out there you want to send us, please do let us know. We either highlight a specific job or a place where you can go to find social media marketing gigs. And I just stumbled across Hootsuite University. Hootsuite, of course, we've talked about on the show in the past. It's a social media dashboard. And when you go into the site and you go into the university section where they train people how to use Hootsuite, there's a great section here called Social Media Jobs. And literally every couple of days, they have new jobs for social media community managers, marketing managers, junior social media editors, and the list goes on and on. So a great resource for anyone looking for work in this space. And these jobs are all very recent.
I love it. This is great. You've got social media coordinator based in Rhode Island, Connecticut, Arizona, New York, Indiana. This is amazing.
There's a ton.
And I think that's, I think a lot of people feel like, well, being a social coordinator of some kind, whatever the actual title is, but kind of working in the community, social media management, that sort of thing. It seems like it would be a job that you could do anywhere, right? Because that's the whole point. You're supposed to be able to use these tools, and you don't actually have to physically be anywhere. However, that's not always the case. And I think that some people, at least that I have heard and talked to, get frustrated and discouraged because a lot of companies still do believe in everybody being in one place. And that's fine too. I'm not going to have a conversation about whether working in an office or virtually is better for everybody because it's different for each team. But it is nice to see just at least, looking at that list, already lots of representation of places that you might be based out of. So it just gives, I feel like to me, it gives me a sense that, there's just jobs all over the place. It's not like you have to live in Silicon Valley or some, big urban area or necessarily relocate. So if you're somewhere rural or otherwise, you should definitely check that out. Pretty cool.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes as well because we just kind of touched on a couple of postings there, but there are literally a few a day in different sections in different areas across the U.S. and beyond. So lots of great stuff.
All right, we got an email from Mark who says, do you have tips on how to fix the problem with Twitter's follow limit rule? I'm following 4,505 tweeps. I don't know if I like that word, but okay, tweeps at the moment, so people. And I only have 4,098 followers, so I can't follow new people right now. I've been testing different services for getting rid of inactive users, fake users, robots, etc. I recently tested unfollowers.com. Amber and I actually had a different service last week that at least showed you. I don't think it actually unfollowed anybody for you. He says, have you heard of any other services, and why is Twitter sticking to this rule? Okay, Amber, maybe I'm having a senior moment, but I didn't realize that there is a follow limit rule. At least
I didn't either.
I mean, I guess it's to cut down on spam accounts that'll just follow everybody on Twitter and never contribute to the conversation. But is there some sort of you can't, and see, that's not right either, because I sometimes see someone who says, well, they'll out-reply me or something on Twitter, and I'll look at their profile out of curiosity. Where's this woman from, or that sort of thing. And somebody will have 350 followers and be following 3,000 people, and I go, all right, well, it's not a totally balanced act there, but okay. So I'm not sure what Mark is. Okay, so he says, wait, really? Hold on a second. Twitter says in their support, this is a support article on this subject. If you're unable to follow more accounts, you've probably hit a follow limit. Twitter has imposed reasonable limits to help prevent system strain and to limit abuse. Every account can follow 2,000 users total. Once you've done that, there are limits to the number of additional users you can follow, and it's based on your ratio of followers to following. This ratio is not published, though, so we don't exactly know what Twitter's doing behind the scenes, but we know that this is a thing. Follow limits cannot be lifted by Twitter, and everyone is subject to limits, even high-profile and API accounts. I didn't know that until right this second.
I didn't know either.
I just didn't.
Yeah, it's funny. Even when you're reading about it, it's kind of vague as far as, like you said, what those limits are for certain people. And it seems like it's an issue for some people, for sure. I don't know. I'm just reading an article that's on a blog that someone has written. His name's Steve Boutry, WordPress.com. And he says the only thing you really can do is start to unfollow some people and then start following people back. He has a long post about saying that Twitter hasn't really helped with this particular situation, and there's not really a ton you can do. So I don't know what to say if anyone who's listening has any advice on this, but like you, Sarah, this is something that I don't think that I've ever really known in the past. So when I saw this in the rundown, I was hoping you had an answer.
It's crazy. I mean, Twitter's got an answer here. I guess I've never hit this limit, so I didn't realize it was one. I do understand what Twitter's doing here, but I can see where someone like Mark would be frustrated because he's like, I'm not trying to get around some rules here. I feel like I'm being held back by these constraints. Another technical follow limit is every Twitter account is technically unable to follow more than 1,000 users per day. So let's say that, all right, well, my personal account wouldn't come into play here, but let's say that I got a new job somewhere. I was running a social account for a company, and they didn't really have any presence at all. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to start following people left and right, and other competitors and people to engage with. And I could see that being a thorn in your side if you're actually not, some sort of spammy type of service. But again, it kind of keeps people honest, I suppose. Accounts are also prohibited from aggressively following other users. So, right, too many follows in one day. Weird. Okay. Well, Mark, you taught me something that I didn't know. Amber didn't either. So. Thank you.
But Facebook has done a similar thing for a long time, right? I mean, they had the 5,000 friend limit on their account for quite some time. I know on my account, I have never been able to add more than 5,000 people in terms of the type of account that I have. And I've seen different social networks kind of play with this, and it doesn't seem like it's a very exact science in any way. So I don't know if anyone can get to the bottom of the Twitter issue, or if Facebook has changed the limit as far as on the friend side, but none of them make much sense to me. Although I guess you can't follow more than 1,000 people a day. That seems reasonable, at least that they publish that, because not many people, I think, would follow more than that. They would have a lot of time on their hands.
I think probably, Mark, what Twitter's saying is, yeah, there's some exceptions, and we're sorry, but for the most part, this is not an issue that should affect you if you're using Twitter the way it was intended. And that's probably a really frustrating answer, but that's kind of how it goes with a company like Twitter that's now so big that they're trying to serve as many people in the right way as possible, and sometimes it's a little bit annoying, and that's just the way it goes. I'm still sort of shocked in a way that you can only follow 2,000 users before then Twitter says, well, hold on a second. Let's see how many people are interested in what you have to say before we let you follow any more, or else it's just not going to be the right Twitter experience for you. But it's their prerogative.
It's a prerogative. Now, Space Guy 1 on Twitter has just written to us and says an idea to get around the limit if you need to follow more people is to just open up a second account using a different handle. Of course, you could then use the social media dashboard and you could keep doing that when you hit any type of limit. So it's not ideal, but I guess it is a very simple workaround in some ways.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we love hearing from all of you. Mark, thank you for bringing that to our attention, and I'm sorry we don't have better advice for you, but you certainly helped us learn something about Twitter. If you want to write us, you can write us at thesocialhour@twit.tv. You can leave us a voicemail at 2626-SOCIAL. That's just 2626 SOCIAL. Isn't that clever? I found it in Google Voice and snapped it right up. We don't actually get that many voicemails, and I'm not sure why, but I'm still going to give you the option. Of course, you could send us a video. You could upload it somewhere, send us the link. In fact, if you're going to take advantage of LiveNinja after watching our interview earlier in the show with Will Weinrub, who's the CEO, you should let us know how it's worked for you. I would love to know what kind of skill somebody used a tutor for using that service, or really any other service. That's the sort of thing we're hearing so much about that, Amber, more and more, and it's and I like the idea of being able to learn remotely, but I do find that depending on the content, it can be difficult when you've got follow-up questions, and then you're sort of pausing maybe a video that's a tutorial and going back and rewinding. It'd be interesting to see how that space fleshes out in the coming years.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that we've had two guests in the past 3 weeks who have really emphasized the human-to-human terminology. We see more and more people talking about that. I've seen this in the social media marketing space where people are saying, it's all about H to H, human to human. And more we're just seeing that finally live video is kind of here to stay, especially in the area of education, teaching, interacting, and those type of things. So an interesting conversation for sure.
All right, Amber, let's get into our Rad or Fad segment, which we always do at the end of our show. Now, this is a website I'm familiar with, and it's gotten a lot of attention. Not always good, but I'll let you explain it to me.
Yeah, so I have been noticing that in the past few months, more and more I am clicking on links that lead to Upworthy. And I love Upworthy for many reasons. Many times they have positive, feel-good stories. And I think in a day and age where we're in a world where there's lots of negativity and lots of negative news, it's nice to see some of these more encouraging stories take place. However, of course, Upworthy, it's become enormously successful, and they've been accused recently of kind of link baiting people with their headlines. And I just thought it was an interesting conversation for rad or fad. I mean, is Upworthy something that is definitely 100% rad? Is it a fad that's going to go away? Will people get sick of it? I don't know what your opinions on it, Sarah, are, but for me, it's relatively new. Over the past few months, I've gone there more and more, and I like what I see. But is there a time where it's going to be just too much and people roll their eyes at some of these stories?
That's a good question, because there's really nothing. I was about to say there's really nothing wrong with Upworthy, but the problem with it, of course, is that it's like this leading headline where it's like, this girl walked for the first time and you never believe what happened next. And a lot of people just can't help themselves because they want to know what's on the other side of that article, which of course is, could be considered link bait. The thing about it is that not all of these stories end up disappointing me. Sometimes I'll click through and it'll be this really cute story about a dog that got rescued, and then they clean the dog up, and then the dog's blind, and then it has gets adopted, and I'm like, well, I feel better than I did 2 seconds ago because I like what I read. But it is manipulative, even if it's all kind of positive stuff. And that's the whole idea about Upworthy is we're going to flood the internet with positive stuff, and it's going to make people feel good. But it's so formulaic, right? That I wonder, is it a fad, or are we all just wired to not be able to resist when we're given some sort of a kind of sensational headline and we really want to know how the story ends. I'm not sure it is a fad. It's kind of the way that, you get page views these days.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I don't really know if I have a total decision on this one necessarily. I think for the most part, it is rad. I mean, I love that I'm reading more positive stories, heartwarming stories, although a lot of the stories are very sensational and many times they can be very emotional too. They definitely deal with some pretty heavy issues, which is okay. But I'm just curious, and I'd love to know from anyone who listens or watches the show what they think of Upworthy. I mean, is this a new type of site that, it feels a little BuzzFeed-ish, but obviously they have a different kind of focus in the sense that they do want to spread more awesomeness around the internet in some ways, but they're at risk, I think, of becoming too sensational with some of the headlines and just in some ways misleading people. So it's kind of on the fence for me right now with this one.
Yeah, this seems like a very extreme version of something that headlines just do. Headlines are supposed to grab you, and this is not on Upworthy. This is on the tech blogs that I read every day. This is, the New York Times. This is on a news program. Coming up after the commercial break, we'll tell you why this new medical breakthrough might save grandma's life. I mean, it's all the same thing, because you're trying to keep people interested. So I think it's easy to say, oh, Upworthy, BuzzFeed, eye rolling, they're ruining journalism. But I don't think that this is something that's new. It's just it's sort of like the formula has been perfected. And now the rest of us are kind of onto it, and we wonder, at any point, does it end up changing the way that we communicate because it becomes that annoying? It does become annoying to me when I start seeing the same thing circulating on my Facebook news feed. But again, that's just the nature of people having similar interests too. And if somebody likes something that they see on Facebook, then the whole point of Facebook is to share it. So that gets into just kind of a bigger question of like, well, who are your friends and what do they like? But I don't know. I don't know if I think Upworthy is a fad. I think it's just kind of the way that things are being shared online because there's so much noise. The signal to noise ratio is really tricky. And I don't think that I can blame the people who made Upworthy for kind of using the system to their advantage.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, and again, I go back to the fact that I do, 90% of their stories I absolutely love. I mean, it's just, they have kind of a different spin on some of the stories that they like to tell. I'm also fascinated at a whole different level at their headline writing skills. And I would love to take a course just in writing headlines because I find it so intriguing how they're able to capture people, the emotional side of people and make people want to connect and click as well. So it'd be fun to get someone on from there. So maybe I'll also chase someone from Upworthy and see if we can get the lowdown and a sneak peek into how they actually put out their content, they decide what to put out, and really walk that fine line, right, Sarah? I mean, that line where they, keep encouraging people to read their content because the content's great, but they don't also turn into almost like a National Geographic, not National Geographic, National Enquirer. You can see how much I read that sort of feeling, right? Like just feel like you're standing in the line at the grocery store and kind of flipping through those magazines and looking at them, but you don't actually want to pick them up. So.
Right, yeah. Although, the National Enquirer, if they say it, it's always true.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I forgot, Sarah.
I'm sort of kidding, but I'm not even going to get into a tabloid conversation, but I don't know. I've read a lot of National Enquirer, and I'm telling you, they're not that crazy. It's almost always true. However... Okay.
I can't let you get away with this just yet. I'm curious, do you read it, do they have a website or do you read it when you're standing getting groceries? Or do you buy it?
I have never had a subscription to the National Enquirer, but I know people who do. Okay. Or have. I guess I've probably not seen a printed version on a coffee table in a really long time.
Yeah.
But I have paid attention over the years, and this is something that I feel moderately strongly about. But I don't want to make it seem like we should all be reading gossip magazines and blogs because I don't think that that's the right idea for us either. I'm just saying, National Enquirer usually has the scoop. I don't know anybody who works there, so that's just my personal
before
feeling.
we leave, I have to tell you, I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but I had the craziest experience like I don't know, 5 years ago, where someone contacted me from the National Enquirer. This was when I was working at a TV station in Toronto. And someone had accused me of having an affair with Matt Lauer from the Today Show.
Really?
I'm not even joking. I'm not even joking. Where I've never even met him. I mean, it's absolutely so ridiculous. But they came on really strong we had to get the lawyers involved from the TV station that I worked at to get involved and kind of tell them to kind of back off, because there was nothing accurate about anything that they said. So I might have a sort of a sour feeling about them because of that experience. But it was just random. I don't know where it came from, but it was very bizarre.
Well,
I know.
Well, there you go. I stand corrected. Not everything. Grain of salt, people. Grain of salt.
Grain of salt.
Well, the tabloids. That's again another conversation. We should actually. It'd be kind of fun to have somebody on from some sort of a social media side of an Us Weekly or something like that, because those a lot of people who work at those publications are really not well liked. And and again, it's a career, and again, there's so much noise out there, and how do you become some sort of a top dog? So yeah, that's a show for another time. But for this show, we have come to the end of our hour. Thank you to everybody who watched and listened, whether you were live, joining us with questions and comments and feedback, or watching us or listening to us after the fact, as I know many of you do. You're all wonderful people, and we love having you. Amber, what have you got going on over the next week? Are you headed back to the Great North pretty soon?
Yes, so we'll be leaving here in the next couple of days, and I will be headed back to the Great White North, and I hope that it is not so white anymore and is actually spring. So have had a good time down here, but yes, it's time to go home.
Well, I interviewed Daryl Etherington, who's a writer over at TechCrunch, on Tech News Tonight a couple of days ago, and he's based in Toronto as well.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And he said, it's springtime, I've got a barbecue, It is time to break out the hamburger patties, spring has sprung. So I think you're going back at just the right time.
That is great news. Thanks, Sarah. Patio weather, finally.
Yay. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and we'll see you soon.